Anytime
You
you're ready.
Today is August the 1st, 2005, and I'm Tommy Pike, president of the Route 66 Association of Missouri, and we're here to interview Julia Chaney. Julia and her husband Sheldon Red Chaney owned Red's Giant Hamburg here in Springfield. And we'll start off, Julia, you've written a little book, and I have read it. And would you like to tell us a little bit about where you were born and when?
Well, I was born in 1914 on a little old farm out south of Palmyra, 2 miles out. And that's where we grew up. And my sister was 2 years older than I was. And there's only 2 girls. But we had some good parents.
Did you go to school there also?
I went to country school out there, and it was called Simpson Hill. Does that sound familiar?
No. That was like the grade school or up through what would be junior high school, I guess.
Well, it had all the grades up to the 8th grade, through the 8th grade. And then you went on to town school then for high school. But
So you went into town to go to high school then?
We always had some good teachers out there, though, and they had to teach all 8 grades. So you know they were busy when they were teaching school.
I believe you stated that you were born in 1914, so that makes you between 90 and 91. Is that correct?
That's right.
Well, you've had a good full life. Your folks owned a farm. You was raised on farm.
Yes. All the good stuff.
All the good stuff. Put out all the crops and everything, and
Yeah, my dad worked. And he walked the farm all over, and you wouldn't hardly find a weed in his farm.
back when most of it was done through probably manual labor and the horse and
That's right.
and horse-drawn farm equipment and everything before the day of the tractors and all.
Well, he never did own a tractor. He didn't want to do that. Some of the renters that rented the farm would have a tractor, but my dad never did invest in one.
What kind of jobs did you have after you got out of school?
Well, I worked at a drugstore after I got out of high school. Worked there for about 4 years, jerking sodas. And that's where I get my start liking to do fountain work.
And all. How did you meet Red?
Well, I met him when I had been out to well, a cousin and I had gone out to the World's Fair, and we would go out there quite a bit. And a lady had organized girls from the church to go out to Fitzsimmons and go to some of the dances for the soldiers. It was a chaperoned a deal. And I met Sheldon out there one night. Well, he's always been a bookworm. He always liked to read. So I says to him one night when he was out there, he got a book and sat down. And I says, well, you can sit there and read all you want to. I'm going to go out and get me a dance. Boy, let's cook the goose right there. He didn't want me to get ahead of him.
What World's Fair was that?
Let's see, I have to think on that one. A lot of these dates have left me on some of these things.
Where was it? What city?
It was out, the World's Fair was out in New York.
Okay.
Probably 39 then,
Somewhere around there.
and all. In your book, I read you went to cosmetology school.
Yes. I like to do fixing hair. So I went to 4 of us cousins decided we wanted to go out to the World's Fair. So as venturesome as we were back in those days, the motels were up to date. You had to go outdoors to use the facilities. But we always had a good time, all 4 of us. Well, we stayed out there, one of my cousins did, and we went out to the fair almost every day because we had passes because her dad was in the printing business down there in Virgin, Illinois. And we got to go out to the fair just any time we wanted to and stay as long as we wanted to or as short as we wanted to. We didn't have to wear ourselves out. And we stayed out there. Well, she stayed longer than she didn't stay as long as I did because I stayed and went on to beauty school there for a year. And during that time is when I had met my husband. Well, I'd go back and forth to Denver when he's going to be up to what's the name of his town? Elgin. When he'd be back up there to Elgin, we'd go out to those dances while we were up there.
So,
Well, I never was a good dancer because I never did dance until it got started going out there.
till you met Red then.
Till I went out to New York, because we never had dances in school when I was there.
You said that Red was from Elgin, Illinois, is that right? That's
right.
where he was born and raised then. Well, and then he was in the military then.
Yes, he was in there for, I guess, about 5 years.
During the Second World War.
That's right.
And all. What made you and, well, when were you and Red married?
Now I'll have to think on that, and it's been a long time since I've been asked that question. Just a second, I'll tell you. That's been away a long time ago.
Was it after the war? Did you get married after World War II?
Well, it was during the war.
During the war.
We were married in Elgin, Illinois.
Said December the 3rd, 1943.
That's right. Had a little church wedding. My folks didn't get to go because they had been sick. So we just, when we got married, went back down to visit my folks then. We stayed down there for a little while till he had to go back to the service.
Well, after the war and all, what made you and Red decide to move to Springfield, Missouri? Was
Well, that's where his dad wanted to sell. After he came back from the service, his dad says, well, he needs to get out of the routine of being in the service. because he was walking the floor constantly day and night. And that was about to run us all crazy. So he decided that he would take us on a trip to the West Coast and get Sheldon out away from all that other routine that he had been doing. And we were going about 6 weeks on our trip. They went to all the little places and by the road there and looked to see what they were. Well, Dad and I didn't get out to a lot of it, but his mother and I were quite venturesome. They get out and go places. Dad and I just stay around outside and look in.
They like to get out and see all the roadside attractions then, huh?
They want to see everything. So we got as far as Pike's Peak, and they wanted, Mother Chaney and Red wanted to go to Pike's Peak. Well, Dad Chaney and I decided we'd just go about halfway up because we didn't want to go all the way to the top. So we just stayed down there and waited until they come back down. Well, in the meantime, he'd forgotten his stuff he was taking pictures with. So he had to go back up to the top and get it again. That's what you do when you forget what you're doing. But we all had a good time on that trip. So then when we come back and went through Springfield, Dad liked the way it looked. He said, you know what? I like the settlement in through here. He said, I think maybe I'd just go back to Springfield or Elgin and sell my business and come down here and open up a business. And that's what they did. But we only had a two-lane highway then. That's way back then. And he went back to Illinois and they sold the property and went down to Springfield then and bought this property that we were still on, Route 66. Then he decided that he'd put a motel in there. They had a motel before, and they only had 3 beds. And then in between each cabin was a garage. So when Dad took it over, he made it all into a garage in between those others. That made him 6 cabins in to clean. Well, he was going to do the cabins, and Red was going to do the restaurant and what little business they had for it. Well, the restaurant was just real small because one side of the station was for the station and the other side was for the restaurant thing. And it was only small because it was only one side there. And he decided that he would go ahead and work on that and maybe enlarge the restaurant part. Well, that's what he did. He just kept working at the restaurant there till he got it up for, he got a pretty good deal out of it in length of time.
You particularly bought property on 66 then, because that was the
that was the main highway at that time. Well, it's still a pretty good highway yet.
You know, there's still a lot of traffic out there where your business was. I mean, it's a busy place through there.
That was a Sinclair station?
Yes, that was.
And then he kept the station and the restaurant and the motel. He had all 3 things going.
Yeah, Dad Chaney did the motel and Red did the restaurant. And he liked people, and he just loved to talk. He never got tired of talking.
But to start with, Red's dad come down here too then. He sold out and come back down here also.
Well, he was the main one that did it. His dad was.
He was.
Of course, Sheldon didn't have much money. It's just GI pay that all he had. So he had to work hard to make ends meet there for a while.
Well, how come that he named it Red's John Hamburg? I know the story, but would you tell us how come he named it John Hamburg instead of putting hamburger on it?
Well, he was going to do big things, so he made the sign giant hamburger. Well, when he got ready to put the sign up, it was too big, and he couldn't get it underneath the wire, so he had to take the E off of it. So it always just kept being the Red Giant Hamburg.
Believe also that Red had the first drive-up window.
That's right. All the drive-in things had car hops. Weren't all of them had car hops?
So he fixed a drive-up window where they could just drive
Well,
up and
he figured if he could fix a drive-in window and just shoot the hamburgers out the window, he'd have a faster service than these other drive-ins were having. So he saw somebody up the line there from us that had two speakers that it was out there, not doing anything, they were just idle. Sheldon says, "Can I borrow those speakers?" He says, "Yeah." So he got those speakers and he decided that would work. He could put up a speaker there at the window and drive in the first one there. Well, that went over so good, he made two more, put two more in out there. So that made four then that he was working on. And people just loved to eat those hamburgers and french fries. And root beer. He gave away root beer when we first opened up. Well, he did that for quite a few years before they raised the price of sugar. Then he had to start charging for it. Well, that didn't make any difference. They still come for hamburgers and root beer.
so if you bought a hamburger, why, he give you a free root beer with it then, huh?
Yeah, when we first opened up, that's what we did.
You did all the cooking?
No, I didn't do all the cooking when we first started. He enlarged the west part of it, of the building, where he puts made a bar, and then we put stools in there. I think he only had eight stools. So, well, that was pretty big after this. He was used to a couple. So he got that worked up, and he got quite a bit of business out of it. And he decided, well, I'll be able to figure out some way to have faster service in the side. Well, he did. He fixed that tape, fixed the I think it had 8 stools to it. That's about all they had room for at that time, because they hadn't taken that partition out between the filling station and the hamburger place. They were always fixing on something, though. You never knew from Monday to another what was going to be the next project.
Always had a better idea, huh?
You always had another idea working. So he got that going real good, though. And then he just made hamburgers and french fries. And then he got started enlarging and had salads. That went over pretty good. So then he kept adding other stuff to it, make it go faster. Well, he had to build on the side of the building in order to have a place big enough to shoot the hamburgers out the window. So he and Dad got Chaney. Of course, he was a carpenter himself. Mr. Chaney was. He could just build anything. So, and Sheldon can't even drive a nail straight. But anyway, they figured out that they would just put a little cubby hole in where that one window was, do away with the window. And they had a deep freeze on that side, and they had ice that they put the ice in the cups to shoot them out the window there. And then on the back side of that little cubby hole they built, they had a big shelving. I think it had about 4 shelves on it. So that held supplies, and that kept us going in for the Hamburg and the rest the business for the drive-in.
Well, back when you had the restaurant and all, that was before that you bought the potatoes already cut up and everything. Did you cut
We never did buy ready to cut potatoes. When we got started, we got one of those little hand choppers, and that's what I used all the time.
cut your own potatoes then?
Cut them all those 40 years that we were in business.
How many potatoes would you go through in a day's time?
Well, depends upon the days. Some days it depends upon people getting paid, but when they come out to eat and how much they eat. So
Cut all the potatoes by hand. That took quite a bit of work, didn't it?
I got it down to a science. I could cut up 35 pounds of potatoes in about 20 minutes.
35 pounds of potatoes in 30 minutes. I'd say that's pretty good. You also had water bottles on the table, didn't you, for the...
Yeah, he said that was too slow. He put me out there to wait tables first. Well, I had to go back to the kitchen and get a glass of water every time. He said, well, that's too slow. We got to figure out some way to make it go faster. So he bought these 2-gallon water jugs, and he put some of these little legs that you see that's put on things with a little tip on the bottom of the legs. Well, he got it raised up high enough where he could put a cup underneath there, and they could serve themselves with water because it held 2 gallons of water. And Dad Chaney liked to get over there in the roasters of a morning and fill up the water jugs and clean the tables off. He liked to be around the public. Dad Chaney did. But anyway, we just kept doing that. And then he finally decided that he needed to build something on that back out there to keep potatoes in, just potatoes, and keep it at one temperature. And that's what he and Kathy's husband, you've never met him, but this was Kathy that worked for us a while, and Junior's a good carpenter because he could draw a straight line, he could saw, he could hammer a nail straight, but Sheldon couldn't even drive a nail straight. So he had to have somebody to do what they were doing.
You live with Kathy and Junior now.
I do,
You know, the motel. How long did you operate the motel?
Well, we didn't operate that very long. That changed it. When we were taken inside the city limits, everything raised, and they put a tax on the motels. That Chaney says, I'm not going to pay that tax. He says, I'll just quit it. He says, I'll just do something else. So that's when he got started helping Red. And he just did away with the motel.
Motel.
He didn't like to have to make beds every day. Well, Mother Chaney liked to peel potatoes, so she went over there early every morning, about 4 o'clock, and peeled potatoes, and then they were ready for me to cut when I went over.
How much did it cost to spend a night in the motel? Remember?
Back then it was $2, and then they raised it to $2.50. You don't get very rich off of that.
What did a hamburger sell for?
So a hamburger sold for 25 cents.
Wow.
And you give a root beer with it.
Then Red decided to make different sizes of Hamburgs. So we had the small one and the giant. Giant was the popular one. And then we had the senior, and then we had the jumbo, and then we had the super.
5 different sizes.
How big was the super?
The super was 2 pieces of meat on it, and on a 5-inch bun.
And order fries, and that was your lunch or your dinner or whatever then, huh?
Whenever they come by and eat. But we had so many customers come in from out of town, out of state, and they drive extra miles to come up and eat Red's Giant Hamburg. We had one guy that lived way down. Oh, he traveled to southern states down there with this big truck, and he'd drive back up to the Giant Hamburg to have a hamburger. He says nobody can make hamburgers like Red. And we were up to a neighboring store, about two miles up from where we lived. And when we went on vacation every winter, we'd go up there to this place and eat hamburgers, because we did our banking up there while we were home. And this guy got to hear us talking. He says, Red, he says, you make the best hamburgers that go. And he says, I drive all the way up here to just eat some hamburgers of yours. and every time he was in the, anyways, near that route that he was on, he'd come up and get hamburger skin.
What was the secret of the great hamburgers?
Well, I'll tell you the secret.
I'd like to know.
Red went to Western conventions 2 different years. And the first year, he didn't learn very much from them. So the second year he went up and they says, Red, how you doing? He says, I'm working like hell, not making any money. He says, well, we'll tell you the secret to making money. He says, keep your portions uniform. And let's see what else did he tell him. Buy the best grade of meat that you could buy to put in a hamburger. And don't vary it when you get good meat. Keep that same meat, good grade. And he says, you'll keep business. Well, that's what he did. People thought he was crazy for using that good meat, because they said, oh, you use this color in Canada, that's good enough for hamburgers. But it says, it's not good enough for me when I got a good clientele that comes in to eat hamburgers. So that's where he started making money. That's when he's put this other deep freeze or walk-in just by out of the kitchen there. And then I could cut up 15 buckets of potatoes out there on the weekend. And then I cut 3 buckets of potatoes every morning before we opened up. So I kept my stuff going too. But he says, weigh stuff out and make your portions of stuff the same amount each time you serve it. He says, and then you'll have business. And they told him what kind of stove to buy to cook it on. It was a nickel-plated grill, and it did cook hamburgers. It was a good one. And then they told him about a French fryer, and they told him which kind of French fryer to get. Well, he spent a fortune. That time he went up to a Western convention, but it paid off in a short time. And they told him about this French fryer, and they told him how to put it together and everything else over the telephone. Now, they did all this stuff over the telephone, getting all this stuff put together. Well, but in no time until he had it put together. and they had shipped down the stuff that what they wanted him to buy. It's all known what you're up to and what you can do if you make the money.
He used a better grade of meat and everything the whole time then.
We kept it uniform.
Yeah.
Everything was uniform. Portion control. Portion control is what makes the money.
And you started that in 46, and when did you close?
We closed in 1980. I said, well, I wanted to close when I got how old was I, Kathy, when I said I was going to close?
70.
70? Well, he says, I think you need to work a little longer. He says, you're in pretty good shape yet. So I said, well, I'll work another 5 years. Work another 5 years. And I said, now, that's going to be it. I said, when I get to be 80, I'm going to walk out that door. I'm not going to clean the French fryer. I'm not going to... And when they hauled off the restaurant, got ready to get rid of it, French fryer was still in the kitchen with the grease. I kept my word. I didn't.
You didn't clean it up the last day.
I didn't clean it up. I didn't even clean the grill.
Red wanted it clean. He's going to have to clean it then.
Yes, he's going to have to do it. But he didn't do it. But people said, well, I don't know how you could work with your husband. I said, well, we have no trouble. We have our own jobs, and you just do that each day.
Stay out of each other's way.
Yeah. I tell you, Red moved so fast that if he had any girl working out there in front at all, she'd be in the way. So he just did it all himself. And they said, now if you come out here, you watch out, because I'm not going to watch out for you, and I'm going to be in a hurry. And he would be.
Said he did some kind of interesting things.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he did everything to entertain his crowd. And they're afraid not to come out the next day for fear they'd miss out on something. Because he always did something on funny stunts and whatnot. But he liked to entertain them anyway.
And you didn't serve like plate lunches or anything.
Yes, we did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. We served, we had a good grade of steak. It was tenderloin that we made the steak plates out of. And that'd be so tender, you just cut it with a fork. And that brought a lot of people in just to eat the steak. And Hamburgs, we had a junior, a giant, senior, jumbo, and super. You had those 5
sizes. Then you said you had salads, and Red made his own salad dressing.
Yes. That was when he concocted up, and it went over so good he just kept making it. And people buy it by the pint, quart.
Take it home.
When he got too busy, then he turned it over to me to make salads. make it ready to go. Send it out by a pint or a quart.
People come in, just get a pint or a quart of the salad dressing and take home with them.
That's right.
What are some of the things that Red would do that were entertaining?
Well, there's so many things. I don't know if I can remember any of them. He was such a cut-up anyway. Kathy, you ought to remember some of them. Kathy worked for me 3 different times. She worked when she was 16, and then she got married Then I didn't see anything of her for another spell. Then she come back and worked for another spell. And then they moved up and did a movie thing for his dad. And they were gone for a while. But when we got ready, things about closing up there, she come back and worked 5 years again. But now, you know, there's a knack on putting buns out, putting the dressing on them. And her timing had to be with my timing. She'd have those all fixed buns out of the bun warmer and replaced in the bun warmer. And she had the buns dressed like the order up on the wall here was written. And by the time I was getting all that grill full of hamburgers out on her buns, she had them wrapped in the first car was gone. Second car moved up, the same thing. It was ready to go. And it was faster than it was just having car hops where the girls had to go back and forth and out. And that's where you made your money, was just keeping your service uniform, your food uniform. And he already had fixed a place out in the back there so people could drive back in there and eat their hamburgers. And that went over pretty good because a lot of people just wanted to eat during lunchtime and eat back there. Well, Dad Chaney got the job then of picking up the wastebasket full of stuff for the next day because the people wouldn't put stuff in the barrel. You'd have to go back out and help of a morning and put stuff in the barrel.
Had to pick up the trash and all each day.
Dad Chaney took care of that. He liked to go out in the morning and people be out there eating hamburgers and stuff. He'd be out there talking. He loved to talk like Red did. I guess that's where Red got the idea of talking.
Hamburgers for breakfast?
Anytime. We got so we had to open up later. We opened up at 11 o'clock. And we did as much in 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock as we did if we worked the whole day. Now you see how fast you work. You're working. You're not letting the grass grow under your feet.
Were you there, how many days was you open? 7 days a week or just Monday through Saturday?
When we were open there first, we were open 7 days. And then we cut it down a little bit. And then we fixed a door, front door out there where we just have a shelf and shoot them out there on one day. That was on the weekend, on Sunday. Well, then we decided that was not going over too good. We don't quit that Sunday business. This because you had all you could do with the rest of the stuff without it taking on a Sunday.
Yeah. So you were just open 6 days a week then up until you closed.
Uh-huh. We weren't open on Saturday for a long time though because we just did that for we just opened 5 days a week.
Got to where just Monday through Friday, then closed Saturday and Sunday then.
Uh-huh.
No, but you were out in the country when you bought that in 1946, huh?
Yeah, I was going to show you some pictures of that. I brought some pictures that I was going to show you of the house and the motel and stuff. What'd I do with them, Kathy? She's my right-hand man. I was cleaning out of desk drawers the other day, and I ran across these pictures, and I just couldn't believe them.
This one shows 2 gas pumps out front.
Yeah, we had a gas station out there, and a truck come down from the filling station right next door there, and it knocked the canopy off. So that ended that filling station business. Here's the house that looked when we first went down there.
Not a lot around that area, is there?
Wasn't anything around it.
A lot of trees.
There wasn't any houses around. It was just a desolate looking place. Well, Red decided to make that sign, the giant Hamburg. Well, he put it out there on that side of the building first, and then he put it back farther where he could put a car in between it and the building.
So nobody could park between the building and the...
He couldn't.
Where they couldn't get between the sign and the building and back over his sign then, huh?
That's right, because he couldn't. After he had to take off the ER off of it, he had the.
Now this shot shows the motel in the back.
There's a motel again. And we had a couple that come down every winter and stay for about three months at a time out there in the cabin. No couple. Dad was always fixing stuff up for his motel.
What did there when you closed? Red had I believe it was a '55 Buick sitting there between the building and the sign. What?
He put that Buick there so people couldn't get too close to the sign and knock it off, and when they come up to it, park.
Yeah. What happened to the old Buick after you closed the rest?
I don't know. What did happen to it, Kathy?
He gave it to somebody.
Huh?
He gave it to somebody.
Where's an old picture of it? Look how tall that.
Well, according to this, the motel was called 66 Motel.
Here's that couple that's Dad Chaney and the lady stays out in the cabin. Look how tall that corn is, and that just across the road.
That corn was out there where your place was?
That was across the road. Where they had the place where Dad Chaney bought.
Huh. That corn's about twice as tall as they are.
I got these up there night and she just. Junior's. This is my sister and her husband and two little girls at that time, but she ended up with 3 girls.
This is your sister and her husband and kids.
Well, after she had those 2 kids, she was so tired of taking care of 2 kids. And she wanted me to come out and stay and help her take care of the kids. Well, that's when I was riding back and forth on the Zephyr. And Sheldon was coming back from furlough. Then I go back out again.
They lived in the Denver area.
Who?
Your sister.
Oh, yeah, they lived in Denver. Dad Chaney was always fixing something for that motel. even though he didn't keep it very long. And he'd put up a fence. You see the little fence there by the sidewalk?
Yeah, right there
And you
between
could
the house and run over towards the motel.
you could never keep a fence or sure up there at that place where that was because people ran over it.
Says 66 motel. A sign under it says 250.
Yeah, the last 5 years my dad lived, he wanted to come down and stay with Sheldon and I. So we fixed the very end cabin out there for him. No, but not the end one, the second one from the end. And fixed a little fixed place where he could eat out there. I'd take his breakfast out to him, and then he'd eat his supper over at the house with us.
Had a place where he could eat his meals there then.
Look how barren that looks.
Yeah, the drive there at the motel and the old cars sitting in there. Now, the cabins just were bed and everything. They didn't have like a stove and refrigerator in them,
And they just had a little hot plate to cook on.
a hot plate.
When that truck come down and knocked the canopy off of the first part of the building there, the filling station. That's when they decided to do away with the station.
Go out of the gas station business.
Yep, they sure went out of it.
You remember about what time that was?
This is a better picture. That shows where they put
Oh, yeah.
put two plate glass windows in front, and then they took that old partition out and made it all one big room there. And then they put booze in there, and they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 booze, and they were full all the time there at noontime. They were afraid not to come out at noontime to eat because Red always had something new doing every day, make them laugh.
Now, you were actually on the corner, weren't you? There was a side street here.
This shows Lloyd standing out there. He was a tinkerer on the car almost every day. Almost every day he'd go out and do something to his car, whether it or not he was going to work on it. And here's another better picture of it. Here's how the thing looked before the
For the truck knocked the front off of it.
they'd fix that up there to make a pretty good station out of it, but
Lucky it didn't catch on fire.
isn't it? Well, there's Mother Chaney and I, and it had a lattice right there at the sidewalk, the back door.
Oh, I see in the fence you was talking about.
Here's Amy, she's just showing the big fish that Dad Chaney and Mother Chaney had caught. Here he's showing where he's got
Big
it.
old fish.
There's where he shows out.
Oh yeah, there's the
Uh-oh.
sign.
It got up to 250 on this one.
Yep. Inflation.
Yeah,
Route 66 motel, modern cabins.
because you see the first one was $2.
$2 and then $2.50. Oh yeah, here's. This one says heated and can't read the bottom part. They're heated and all then. That was probably prior even to air conditioning, wasn't it?
Well, we didn't have air conditioning there for some time. But you couldn't hardly keep a little old fence out there.
They'd
People-
run over it at the,
Oh, yeah, they'd run over.
wonder what the gas sold for at that gas station. Probably pretty reasonable.
It wasn't very much you could get rich off of it. There's the east side of the hamburger before he got started putting anything around it or remodeling on it any.
Fixed his cooler and everything.
Well, I guess that's about all the pictures.
Well, we've enjoyed visiting with you today and
I
enjoyed.
just had one question.
Okay.
Where would that be today, 2005? Where would the restaurant be now? What street and what?
It is on West Chestnut. Basically, then that was Highway 66 out there, and now it's West Chestnut, and it's 5 lanes wide with a center turning lane where back then it just 2-lane road.
What would be the cross street, do you know, near it?
What was your side street?
I was saying that was a while ago now. I'll have to think again. Kathy? Where'd you go?
Would be like west of
Yeah, it's
Kansas Expressway?
yeah, it's west of Kansas Expressway, and it's out there where College Street here in Springfield goes down and hits Chestnut Street and then starts west. Well, it's about a block, maybe a block and a half down from that intersection, and be on your left if you was headed west.
I just wanted to get a location
Yeah.
today, that was all.
The house was there up until, hadn't been too long. The house has been gone, has it?
No. After we closed up,
Tore the restaurant down first.
it was torn down about 2 years ago. They just went in there and had 2 big old empty things. And
2 dumpsters. And just put it in it then.
it's right there next to that lodge.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's on the east of that now, isn't it?
They built that lodge after we come down there. And Red says he liked the old guy, and the old guy liked Red that was overseeing building that lodge. where it says, I want you to put it close enough to my stuff where they can't drive a car down through there. And he did. And when they were talking about tearing down the motel, the guy was so afraid that they were going to hurt his lodge. I don't think they even put a scratch on it.
Now, what was that, the Odd Fellows?
Well, it's mostly what do I want to call them? What is that? What's that lodge?
Why'd they tear it down?
We didn't want to rent it. You let renters have it, and they just don't keep it up. When you're done with it, tear it down. And they got. Have you been by there lately? It looks pretty barren, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The trees, they left a part of the trees down there because they didn't know whether whoever bought it would dump trees on it or not. So they tore down some of the trees, but not all of them.
Most of the big trees are still there.
Uh-huh.
And all. You was talking about when will you be 91?
Well, I was 90 on October the 31st this past year.
So this,
Yeah, I'm a Halloweener. You know, I never lacked for birthday parties. I always had fun on Halloween. Churches had parties, and schools had parties. And always had that stuff going for Halloween.
Pretty good.
and then after you retired and everything, why, you've lived with Kathy and Junior Hickman then.
Well, after Red died, they wanted. They would take me in. No, they'd come over and we'd go out and eat and stuff. But you know, I didn't like to stay there because the tavern right next door there, and they would come by all hours of the night and knock at the door. Well, they thought I didn't have any business staying over there by myself. So after I was out of the hospital there for a couple of times, they just took me over and lived with them. And then when they moved over there where they are now, we've lived there about three years now, 3 or 4. And it's a good house.
Yeah, well, we've enjoyed visiting with you today and getting your reminiscences of working and making a living and all on Route 66.
Well, I was in the beauty business for a while. I worked in Champaign, Illinois, working as a beauty operator for a while. Well, I've done everything.
Well, a lot of people has a lot of professions, I guess you'd say, do a lot of different things. And Kathy and Junior both worked for you at one time.
Junior did work for us, only to help Red out on stuff. But Kathy worked the rest of there with me.
Well, that's good.
Well, she can remember, too. She can remember orders that was coming out.
And people that was your steady customers and
Yeah, she could look out the road there and see the car and stuff, and she knew what they ordered every week. By the time these other cars were already up to the window, that car was ready for the sandwiches too. Well, you have to have good cooperation in order to get things out fast.
yeah.
You can't have somebody that doesn't know anything. But we had some girls from the country in there well, they'd want a job So we would hire him. And he'd tell them, he told one girl, he says, "Why, take a broom and sweep out in front and get that dirt." She took it to the telephone and left it right there where he had to walk in it. He says, why didn't you pick it up? He says, "You didn't tell me to pick it up." And that's what you had to contend with country kids, but they don't know straight up.
Had to give explicit orders then.
Yeah, you'd better give it the first time because they'll forget it by the time they get the first one done. Oh. No, we had a lot of fun in it, even though it was hard work.
Yeah, and probably the years flew by after you look back.
Carrying that 35 pounds of potatoes every time, and look how many times you carry that one potato. You carry it when Mother Chaney got it through working with it. I had it. I cut it. I processed it to keep the potatoes white. And then, after it drained, I carry it out, but in another refrigerator. And look how many times you carry that one thing. And then by the time you do 15 of them, look what you've carried.
Potatoes had a lot of mileage on them, didn't they?
They sure had. My feet had a lot of mileage on them. No, we had a lot of fun though.
Well, we've enjoyed talking to you today, Julia, and we'll put this oral history in with our others, and we'll cherish it.
I had one of our good customers and his wife, and two little. They got twin grandkids, and they're just cute as they can be. And they brought them over yesterday for me to see them, or Sundays for me to see them. Their folks had gone up to someplace up north for a couple of days, and so their paternal grandparents and then these other grandparents were taking care of them while their parents were gone. And those kids are the cutest things. I says, well, I'm glad I got a namesake, Kelsey Elizabeth. They named the baby. The little girl, one's a boy and one's a girl. And they're just as cute as they can be. I'll think of 101 things as I wish I'd have told you after you leave. But I've had a lot of memories, a lot of good memories.
Yeah, and you've written your book, Prairies to Hamburgs.
Well, I didn't know whether you'd want to give any of them out to anybody or not. If you thought maybe it says, well, you might like them.
Oh,
I think we take one for the files, yeah.
Yeah. We'd be glad to have.
What I do with them? This chair's so big, I get lost in it.